Well, hello everyone. Ogre27 Kane here today, and we're going to do a review of Astria Ascending for the Nintendo Switch. Let's do a brief overview and figure out what this game is all about. So this is a turn-based RPG brought to us by Dear Villagers and Artisan Studios. It's from a team featuring developers from Final Fantasy, Nier Automata, and Bravely Default. It features an absolutely gorgeous hand-drawn art style, as well as a deep and immersive combat system, and a really rich and engaging character customization. It also has amazing audio and a lot of other fun aspects and features to it. This game is kind of a hidden gem, as I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about it, but for me, it was a lot of fun, and it's fairly cheap. So let's go ahead and jump into the gameplay. So the gameplay in this is a traditional turn-based, narrative-driven RPG, and it takes place in an absolutely gorgeous hand-drawn world. You have a hub area, if you will, that features 8 demigods, and each one corresponds to a race in their own area connected to this hub world. These characters don't necessarily all get along or like each other, which leads to a very different variety of outcomes and scenarios, if you will, that are not necessarily expected. Now, the art itself is one of the driving factors behind it, but the combat is a huge factor in this game as well. The combat is a little difficult, and there are different options and features to help you with that, but we'll go over that when we get to that section. The other thing I have to mention is that the gameplay in this features a lot of platforming and puzzle elements too. The puzzle elements aren't necessarily the most difficult, but they do show up every once in a while and take place in each dungeon. Now, you can go back and explore each dungeon if you like to, but you don't have to. So let's go ahead and hit the story now. So the story sees 8 demigods, which are overlooking this world to help prevent the noise from destroying everything. Your team is on their last 3 months of their 3-year stint, and essentially they're trying to just ride out the storm. But things get really crazy and out of hand, and before you know it, you're figuring out more and more of what actually is existing in this world. There are some characters and creatures that you won't discover until about 10 hours into the game, which really lead to the breadth of it and really carry it along. This game has kind of a slow beginning, and it really isn't that fun in that area until you get past that. Most of the beginning of the game is teaching you the combat and different weaknesses to each character and strengths. I do love how each area itself seems to be very different from each other, and the story pushes each character in their own area to thrive in said environments. The other cool thing about the story is that it does take its time to kind of introduce each character and where they're at in the world and what's going on in each subworld. I really enjoy all of these aspects, but it is hard to get used to. Let's do controls and audio. So first we'll talk about the controls. And the controls in this game are pretty basic. It's what you'd expect from a turn-based RPG. You just navigate menus and select what attack and what defense and what magic you're going to use. But you do have some light platforming and puzzle solving which come into play. It's fairly responsive, but you have a maneuver where you're supposed to attack enemies to initiate, and it feels really mushy, really off. That was my only gripe with any of the controls. Let's go ahead and talk about the audio, because the audio is one of the shining points of this game. The music is absolutely fantastic, and the voice actors do a tremendous job conveying each emotion and character. You can tell a lot of it was kind of handled one at a time though, because sometimes they won't say a certain character's name correctly, and I kind of show that off at the end of this video. That being said though, I truly enjoyed the audio, and it is definitely one of the best factors to it. I'm going to show a little bit of the voice acting off here in just a second and let you decide for yourself, but some characters are definitely better than others.
A Harmelin delivery? Thank you.
What was that?
Oh, my family manages McMe Messengers. My brother took over the business after my mother passed away.
No, I mean,
That we should get back to work and stop wasting time with McMe's?
stick your beak back into your own business.
Graphics and animations are up next. And before I get into that, I want to show a little bit of this card game off, as it is a side activity and it is kind of fun. It doesn't really play any major factors to it, and it's just there to waste time, and if you want to collect all the little cards and pieces to it, go for it, have a blast. It's fairly simplistic, and it does have a certain amount of risk to it, so enjoy at your own peril. But as far as the graphics go, I think this game has some of the best hand-drawn art I've ever seen in a video game, and it truly does stand up with a lot of Vanilleware's titles. The The graphics themselves are very smooth and very consistent, but it does have a little bit of a frame rate issue from time to time as you're running through each area. This didn't really bother me, but it is something I have to mention, as I'm sure it's a lot smoother on the PC. Now, the animations in battle, as you can see here, are a lot better, a lot more consistent, and each magic that you use has its own color and flair to it. The characters themselves pop and have a lot of vibrancy to them, and they fit along well with their dialogue and their mannerisms. The characters are fully rendered in 3D, and you will notice throughout the game that they do move, and their heads move and arms move, and it kind of does add a little bit more to the atmosphere. I love this art style and animation, but if you're not into this kind of style, I could see how it'd turn you off. If you're a fan of Vanillaware though, this is definitely one you have to check out, as it is very high quality and very well done. You can see all of its inspiration from all the other different kinds of games that this came from. This is definitely an amalgamation of all the teams and their expertise in what they chose to do. I didn't have any crashes myself, but I've heard of some, so let's do combat. So the combat in this game is both the best and worst part to it, as it's a very traditional combat system set around weaknesses and strengths of each character. As you can see here, you have a huge customization chart, and each character has their own set of jobs and classes that they can experience. There are tons of different options on how you want to strengthen your characters, send them towards magic, strength, or defense builds, but a lot of it is revolved around the system of weaknesses and resistance. There is some really cool options in the menu to raise and lower the difficulty, and I would definitely recommend playing this game on easy the first 30 hours or so through until you get used to it. The game has a really bad tendency to stun lock you and hit you with AoE attacks, which can be really frustrating in the normal or hard difficulties. In the easy difficulty, it's fairly manageable, and it allows you to get through most of the fights to truly just enjoy the story. The other highlight to this is that the combat revolves around switching your characters throughout each battle and utilizing those strengths and weaknesses and not sticking to just a said party. You can turn on shared experience or turn it off, or anything you want to help you get through these areas. The bosses are extremely fun in this, but they do have a huge health pool, so it does require you to really invest in figuring out what you're doing. Now, switching between these characters is pretty neat, but it does require a turn, so you have to plan out this before you get into it. This is where I recommend turning on those weaknesses so you don't have to waste so many turns just trying to figure out what they are. Be very careful though with the stun locking, and utilize the drain magic because it will help you get your focus points, and your focus points are really where you can up the damage. It's a similar mechanic to Bravely Default where you can upgrade. So let's do conclusion. So in conclusion, all of the plus factors of this game really do make this a must-buy and a huge recommendation to me. On top of that, the game is pretty cheap now. You can pick it up for around $20-25 bucks for a physical copy, and it's well worth it, especially if you're a fan of Vanillaware. The only other thing I'd have to mention is be aware of the difficulty, because this game can spike on you in random places. But it is a huge recommendation from me, and it will be a hidden gem sometime soon, if not already. The value on this game is fairly cheap, so keep that in mind, and be aware it is a lot of fun. Well, if you were on the fence about this game, I hope my video helped change your mind. So thank you for watching today's video. It was a blast to make. I upload every single Monday. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And have a great rest of your day. This is Ogre27Kane, signing out.
Thank you. I'll give it my all. Echo!
Echo!
Echo! Echo! Echo! Echo!
What's the matter, Iko?
There's something I want to discuss. Let's head back to our chambers.